Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I appreciate those of you that are already jumping on live. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us today. As you know, the Her Version platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, we are talking about the gap between selfless and selfish. We have Dawnita Brown here to share her teachings on an action she calls self-full, which I just love. At one time, Dawnita was set on becoming a global citizen with a vision board filled with adventure and volunteer work. In 2018, that vision came to a streaking halt when her mother had a stroke. She watched as her life pivoted drastically to long-term caregiver. With vibrancy still bubbling from within, she saw an opportunity to build upon her situation. Dawnita now educates, equips, and encourages caregivers to live a life of self-fullness while caring for their loved ones. Welcome, Dawnita. How are you? In your journey through therapy and book reading and following whoever you follow, I'm sure you've come across the thoughts or the theory or the knowing of limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to know what has been a big limiting belief that you've kind of had to look into and disintegrate.
So I think that my greatest issue, and we're being transparent, right? My greatest issue is physical makeup, right? I'm short. I'm 5 on a good day. It's just a lot of things that I would change if I could. But I also think about I'm who God created me to be, right? So when I think about things that would hinder me, they are sometimes there to help me, right? So when believe we believe certain things we put in our mind that will hinder us, limit us, is changing it around. My hands are small, they're very tiny, right? But guess what? I do a whole lot with my hands for my mother. You know what I mean? So it's like these beliefs that we make up, and a lot of them are made up in our minds, is thinking on what they can do, right? So instead of looking at it as something that is limiting, how can it be positive? How can it be productive, if you will? How can it propel you versus stopping you or hindering you?
Yeah. And when you're talking about that now, how often, a week, a month, or a year, whatever, do you have to remind yourself
Oh,
of
almost
that?
daily.
Yeah. Well, because a lot of times people get down on themselves because they're like, I know better. I shouldn't be doing this. And then it runs through a cycle of like guilt of knowing that it's a limiting belief or something that they need to kind of like squash and get over, and then they're not. So I love to highlight that, like, yeah, and we still sometimes think about it.
And download the I Am app for reminders, and read devotionals, and I look for signs in everything, right? So my birthday is 213. So whenever I see any combination of 213, I feel like, okay, God, I know you got me. You know what I mean? So even if something happens, I think so, and then I see that, I say, okay, I know you got me. You know what I mean? So it's really championing yourself. You know what I mean? So it's, yeah,
That's awesome. Sometimes we need a reminder of that, you know.
absolutely.
I know, even myself as a coach, and I'm sure you can attest to this, we feel as if we need to have all our shit together
Yep.
and know all of the things.
Yep.
And come into the real realization when you get into this industry and you're, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years in, and realizing I also need reminders. I also have to remind myself and reaffirm for myself, who I am and what I stand for. So, being transparent, as you've mentioned
Yep.
times today, is so important, so that when we are talking to our clients or our audience, we can be real with, like, hey, it's a knowing. It's not a like forever changing. Sometimes, it's realizing that these thoughts do come and flow, and go in and out, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's like my friend had to remind me the other day. She was like, "Girl, you are fabulous. You are doing it," because she came over to my house, and I have beautiful just curb appeal, and I have a beautiful, I call it my oasis out back, and I have my plants and just everything. My house is clean. And she said, she looked around like, "You do all of this and take care of your mother and have the podcast and doing this," and I'm just like, you know what? I am. Like my house
Yes.
is clean. I could walk through and really love my home. I can invite people in. I love to invite people over and entertain. And yes, I do all of that. And I'm taking care of my mother full time. It was like, even the reminders come so from so many different ways. It could be
Yeah.
a person, like I say, it could be a devotional, it could be whatever. So it was almost like, thank you for that. I needed to hear that today.
Yeah. Yeah.
I needed to hear that to because a lot of times we compartmentalize, right? So we only think of one thing and don't realize the magnitude of all of what we're doing and all of who we are.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I love about this podcast, is like there's so many stories and like warrior stories out there that people are just like, that's just my story. What?
Hmm.
That's what I had to do to survive. What? And it's like, that is super inspirational. Like, you need to be patting yourself on the back every single day that you're here and you're kicking it, in the fashion in which you are doing it. People need to know that and learn from that and see that, because sometimes we're struggling.
Yes. Like I said, I'm
Mhm.
on a struggle bus today. I just submitted an application for a grant. I'm planning a respite retreat for family caregivers, ladies of my Binti circle, and we're planning it for November, which is National Family Caregivers Month. And so I have my proposal done and all, and I've been just working on it. And of course, I do a lot of things that aren't income generating, like right off the top, but I get so much fulfillment out of that.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful. I do want income now that the world is opening up. I realize how expensive it is to travel. And I'm like, wait, I do need an income now. Yeah, to maintain my travel, my love for travel. But the impact that I make is so fulfilling when I hear women talking about what the Binti circle means to them, it's so fulfilling. When I hear someone say that a podcast episode really resonated with them, that is so meaningful and impact. That's what fulfills me. It's like, okay, I've probably sold I don't know how many shirts or retail. I have not done a lot in that realm, but the impact that I made, it's priceless.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think is the meaning of life?
Um, I think the meaning of life is to be on purpose, is to live on purpose, is to discover your why, and your why will change. My why when I was in Eswatini was to serve the community. I was community health volunteer, right? My why now is for other caregivers and for my mom. So it will change. Like this part of my life, you would not have been able to tell me that this would be my life, Sabrina, like at all. I've been unemployed. No, I'm not going to say unemployed. I've been an unpaid family caregiver and a trying to be not trying to be. I'm an entrepreneur that is not, like I say, the income is not quite there yet. However, I know that it's on purpose. That I'm not just spinning wheels and I'm not just grasping for straws, that I'm really living a life that I've been called to live at this time of my life.
Yeah.
So that's when I think the meaning of life, I think, is to live on purpose and to, know who you are and why you were created. And it may change, but that's the meaning of life to me.
100%. I definitely hear you on all angles with that. Can you tell us a little bit more about this self-fullness?
Yes. So, like I say, that is the sweet spot between selfish and selfless. When this first happened with my mom, I was selfless. Everything that I did was about her well-being, her care, talking to the doctors, the nurses, the social workers, all of that. And then I was eating fast food. I was grabbing and going. I was sitting a lot. I wasn't prioritizing my life at all. Like everything that I did, said for the most part, revolved around her. And so I didn't take time for myself at all. And it showed in unhealthy behaviors. I was gaining weight, which when you eat to self soothe, you are um gaining weight. That's counterproductive. Like, and then you get depressed, right? So it was like I had this switch that went on and said, you know what? You have to take care of yourself. You have to be okay with going, taking some time off for yourself. I have a cabin in Western Maryland. I live in Baltimore, Maryland, that I've gone to, and I said that'll be my quarterly getaway, along with some smaller ones built in. But being okay with not feeling guilty to take time for myself. I work out every day. I try to, and I go to the basement. There was a time when my mom would yell and I would just run to every beck and call. And now I'm like, she good. You know what I mean? Like, me, or I turn my music up so I won't hear her. I ignore her, and there's nothing wrong with that. For the caregivers out there, make sure that you take time for you, regardless, if it's 5 minutes or whatever. But then that selfful piece. So that's being selfful. But then also, if you're taking care of someone, do things that you both can get enjoyment from. Like I say, my mom and we love watching game shows. So I don't feel like when I'm spending time with her in her room watching TV that I'm doing it just for her. I'm getting something from it as well. We do things, we like seafood. So eating those things together, it's something that we both get enjoyment from. The one thing that I want to do, and I've been talking about it, is learning how to play the bass guitar. And so I have it and everything. And I have a tambourine for her and a harmonica. So we, playing music and stuff together. So that's that piece where she's getting something from it and I am as well. And then there are times when I just do me. so that I can fill my cup in order for me to pour from an overflow versus the reserve.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. Have you put any thought into doing retreats with the caregiver and
Oh my gosh, that's funny that you say that, Sabrina. That's one of my long-term dreams is to get a retreat center, like a waterfront where they both could come. We have awesome, I see it, I envision it, of course, that, you know, I want to have my own before I plan one at a facility because I don't, I know there'll be a lot of coordination, but I want to be able to set it up like I want it. Like I want really compassionate folks to work, GNAs, CNAs, nurses that have a heart to care for people. And I want to have it set up like, they have memory cafes for Alzheimer's patients where they can attend with their caregiver. But that is my dream, to have a beautiful home on the waterfront where they both could come for respite. We have things that they do separately and then things that they do together. So that's that selfulness piece. So yes, I definitely have. And so I'm going to take that and I'm going to write it down that this day, you even mentioned it, June 16th at 12:54.
there you go. There you go.
Yes.
I could totally see that. I think that that would be something that would encourage the selffulness versus the selfishness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because I think sometimes, no matter how many times you say it, caregivers would feel selfish.
Yep.
Even though they know that they need it. They'll do it, but they'll still feel that like while they're
Yeah.
there, while there's, they'll still kind
Yep.
of be hanging. But if they're both going,
That is my dream. I have it written down. Like I know exactly what I want. And I said, because I mentioned it to my mom, I said, "Mom, how would you like
I love
that?"
it.
And she was like, "I love it." Right. And so, of course, some people need more care than others. Like my mother was a tube feeder. She's no longer a tube feeder. She's taking food by mouth, praise God. But, to make sure that we have the hospital beds, to make sure that we have everything that we need. And I think that this is like my training, on the job training. I'm on the ground. I'm seeing all of the needs that are required. And I said that not even from that selfish standpoint, but it also alleviates the stress of wondering what's happening with your loved one. So, you're there with them. Like you're not going to be with them all the time because you're going to get um your stuff in your yoga, your meditation, your massage therapy, your just fellowship with other caregivers. But then I was thinking we could do dinner together,
Yeah.
and then they go. And so, yeah, oh my gosh. Wow. That's just confirmation for me.
I love that. Absolutely. So now that we have a solid group of people that are here, they've been here, they're hanging out, they're interested, they're listening to you. I'm assuming they're resonating with you. Can you tell us more about your website, your social media, what you do, what you're growing? Give us a little background on that.
Absolutely. So my website is www.heycaregiver.com. And everything is on the website. My social media is linked from the website. My information about the Binti Circle, which is the support group that I mentioned for Black daughters caring for their parents. Information about the Binti Circle is there. You can, if you want to schedule a free discovery call, a coaching, if you're a caregiver, you can sign up there. There's a link for you to schedule an appointment. And then the Selfful Caregiver podcast. You can log in there and listen to some of our episodes. And if you want to be a guest, fill out the form. I would love to have you. And then, of course, we have our store where there is retail there for caregivers and carees, empowering, inspiring merchandise, and also fashionable.
I love that's the key.
So, yeah.
I love it. Absolutely. Social media. Is it all on there?
Media, my IG, yep, is at Hey Caregiver. And then my personal, where I also share a lot of my caregiving journey, is at the Selfull, and that's SELFULL caregiver
Oh,
on
wait, say it
IG.
again. Let me write it down.
Okay.
S.
SELFULL caregiver. The Selfull caregiver.
This might be wrong. We have to.
Okay.
This is a IG. What is this?
IG.
Did you say the?
THESEL.
Okay, let's see if this is
Okay.
right. Hang on.
Okay. Yep, that's it.
Is it
got
right?
it. You got it. Mm-hmm.
Selfull caregiver. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So IG, there you go. Check it out.
Yes.
I love it. What's some advice you'd give to individuals who are just now falling into this role of caregiver? They're kind of floundering around. Their dreams might be at the coast here and they're feeling a little darkness. What's some advice you give to them?
Find your tribe. I say a tribe is a vibe. Find your community. I'm an only child. I'm single. I don't have children. So I can't really talk to those that are may have issues with their siblings, or, they're in the sandwich. We're all in the sandwich generation, but they're taking care of their kids and their parents. So find your tribe. There's something for everybody, and be open and honest. A lot of times we hold things so tight to our chest that no one can really help you. I feel like that. This is what I say healing and help. It is where, no. Healing and hope, I think. Yeah, healing and hope is where honesty and transparency lies, or vice versa. So being honest, being transparent, you can get the healing and the hope there. Don't hold things too tight to your chest. Try to research as much as you can. Advocate, and make sure that you take care of you. Do not feel guilty at all.
100. I agree. I love it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Sabrina.
Your story's great. I'm so excited to see all of this unravel over the next few years and watch you grow and see all of the awesome, cool things that you decide to do with this new adventure that's been placed before you. I absolutely love it. For those of you watching live, thank you again for being here. Those of you watching on the replay and you've made it this far, be sure to hashtag replay so we know where you are and we can send you some love. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you that resonated with Dawnita and her story, be sure to follow her on Instagram and check out her website and all the social media handles. Reach out to her. She is a lovely woman, and she will be more than happy to help you, guide you in any area that you're needing some guidance in. So thank you for joining us here on Her Version. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast, make sure you subscribe, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here or at herversion.life under guest speaker. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. As always,